right, shalom, shalom, brothers. Shalom, Akim and Akwath, listening and learning. And just give me a moment, make sure the notification has come through on my channel. All right. Just got a topic to go into this morning. All right. It's almost 8 a.m. here in Melbourne, Australia. And got up this morning. First thing I did was prayed and hit the news to see what's going on. As we take the things that are going on across the four corners of the earth and we cross-reference them to the scriptures so that we can edify the sheep. All right. And let me see here. Okay, yeah, I think the notifications have come through. And let me see here. Okay, yeah, I think the notification. Yeah, that's coming in pretty good. Okay. Yeah, that's coming in pretty good. Yeah, we good. All right. Let me just share that. All right. Okay, I'm happy with that. So before I get started, I want to say Shalom, Kal Halal, Yahweh, Bahasham, Yahweh Shai, Bahasham, Rakah, HaKodash, and double honors to the beloved apostles and elders of Great Millstone, better known as GMS, who rule well. Peace and salutations unto the hopeful elect, the tabernacle of David, beginning with the 144,000 and the rest of the men, women, and children out of the 12 tribes, whom Yahweh, Bahasham, Yahweh Shai, will ultimately have mercy upon in these last days. I am your brother Matazabath, residing from the branch of the Great Millstone here in Melbourne, Australia. All right. And I wanted to do a lesson today through the spirit and power of Yahweh, Bahasham, Yahweh Shai. And the title of today's lesson is going to be Australia Tries to Mimic Divine Omniscience Through Their Drone Technology. Okay. Once again, the title is Australia Tries to Mimic Divine Omniscience Through Their Drone Technology. Okay. And this comes via way, as you can see here on the screen. Police drones take flight and more crime trials. Okay. And this was pretty much aired yesterday on Channel 7 News in Australia. Now, why is this important? Because first and foremost, when you come over here, okay, you have a report. And matter of fact, the beloved Elder Apostle Gabar spoke on this recently about a week ago on how we here at Great Millstone, we have to go more into the bankers and what they are trying to do. Okay. And now for those who don't believe, all right, this is an annual report from the Rockefeller Foundation that was published back in 2010. Okay. And here I have within their PDF form, which this is, you can get this on Google. They still have it up. Okay. They have Lockstep, Hack Attack, Clever Together, and Smart Scramble. Okay. And you're going to see, based upon these two right here, which today we're going to focus on, which is their Lockstep and Hack Attack, because that's the time that we're in right now in order for them to establish their new world order. Okay. But before we attack this PDF, I want to come back over here. Okay. I'm going to play the video real quick so that you can understand what's going on. And then I also have another TikTok video lined up to play as well within the lesson. So Lord's will, this to be edifying, straight to the point. And let's take it from there.
Launch new crime-fighting tech with a trial of drones at trouble-plagued Moree in our northwest. In a national first, the eyes in the sky can fly at a moment's notice, controlled by pilots at Polair headquarters in Bankstown. Rex Crowley's there.
Inside Bankstown Airport here in Sydney's west, they're tracking offenders that are more than 600 kilometres away. New South Wales Police today unveiled a new drone technology that can track fugitives on the run from the skies. This vision is from a trial that's been done in Moree in the state's northwest over the last month. they're able to track in real time where an offender is at any one moment. Information is being fed back to those officers on the ground about where the fugitive is moving to, so the officers can adjust accordingly. And in this case, it was successful and they arrested the offender. There has been privacy concerns about this new technology, that police will use these drones to spy on residents, but police say that it will only be used in active scenarios and that it could have been used to help catch those high-profile fugitives such as Desi Freeman in Victoria or Julian Ingram in New South Wales.
We don't want the community just to be safe. I want them to feel safe.
But I want to assure people that this is actually about keeping the community safe and tackling crime. It has nothing to do with surveillance.
It's certainly cheaper and quicker than putting up a police helicopter like this one to track people on the run. So is this the future of policing? We're going to try and answer that question in 7 News tonight at 6 p.m.
Okay. So this is where we're at. Okay. Now, this is located in New South Wales, okay, which is another state going up northwards towards where I'm positioned here, because I stay in Melbourne, Victoria. But this is in New South Wales, and they are currently trialing this technology on a 6-month trial. Okay. Now, what's interesting is, let me take this off the main screen. I want to put this up. Now I want you guys to check out this, because this also just came into fruition yesterday. So let's check out what this guy has to say.
Australia's secretive Defence Department just gave Palantir, a company linked to enabling genocide and mass deportations, its biggest contract ever. There are 5 big issues with this. 1. Palantir's AI has been linked to lethal surveillance in Gaza, contributing to tens of thousands of civilian deaths. Now our Defence Department is spending millions on it. 2. Palantir built the system ICE uses to track immigrants with Medicaid data. New York hospitals pay them millions while they enable family separations. 3. Defence just handed Palantir a $7.6 million contract without going to market, nearly double the original proposed contract size. 4. Defence has now spent over $26 million on Palantir since 2013. Add to that Coles, Westpac, Rio Tinto and the Future Fund's $100 million investment. Australian money is flooding into this exploitative and dangerous company. 5. We're embedding a Trump-linked company owned by billionaires who loathe democracy into our most sensitive defence systems. So here's what we should do. Cancel these contracts now and keep Palantir out of our government, out of our lives and out of our country.
Authorised by Jay McCall, Australian Greens, Canberra.
Right. So I'm going to play it one more time because he said a lot within 1 minute. All right. So here it is one more time.
Australia's secretive Defence Department just gave Palantir, a company linked to enabling genocide and mass deportations, its biggest contract ever. There are 5 big issues with this. 1. Palantir's AI has been linked to lethal surveillance in Gaza, contributing to tens of thousands of civilian deaths. Now our Defence Department is spending millions on it. 2. Palantir built the system ICE uses to track immigrants with Medicaid data. New York hospitals pay them millions while they enable family separations. 3. Defence just handed Palantir a $7.6 million contract without going to market, nearly double the original proposed contract size. 4. Defence has now spent over $26 million on Palantir since 2013. Add to that Coles, Westpac, Rio Tinto and the Future Fund's $100 million investment. Australian money is flooding into this exploitative and dangerous company. 5. We're embedding a Trump-linked company owned by billionaires who loathe democracy into our most sensitive defence systems. So here's what we should do. Cancel these contracts now and keep Palantir out of our government, out of our lives and out of our country.
Authorised by...
Right. So now that brings me back, to this situation here. So now you can understand how this is all tying in together. And while they decided to come out with police drone technology within New South Wales, because they just signed the contract with Palantir, okay, to pretty much spy over the citizens. That's really what it is. Now, if you don't understand what Palantir is, right, let's come over here. All right. Oh, actually, no, not Technologies, but Palantir itself. Okay. Now it says here in Google AI overview, Palantir Technologies is a US-based software company specializing in big data integration, analytics, and AI-driven decision making for government agencies. That's the key part. Artificial intelligence driven decision making for government agencies, intelligence and large enterprises. It was founded in 2003. You see that? It enables organizations to fuse uh, desperate data sources into actionable insights. You see what I'm saying? So these guys, they've been around since back in '03. All right. Let me see what else they got here. It says the core platform's Gotham, all right, is designed for defense and intelligence, used to identify patterns and threats. Foundry acts as a central operating system for commercial data used in corporate and civil sectors. Artificial intelligence platform integrates large language models into secure data environments. And then you have its purpose, which says the software helps users connect the dots in massive slot data sets often used for counterterrorism, law enforcement, and supply chain management. It says customers, it has U.S. Department of Defense, intelligence agencies, UK, NHS, various global corporations. So you get the picture, okay? Now, recently, they also released a movie called Mercy, okay? And some of the Akium have seen this film, okay? Now, it's not a coincidence that Australia just signed, $7.6 billion contract with Palantir, which is located in the States. They're trialing drone technology. And then you have this movie that just came out like 2 to 3 weeks ago, Mercy, okay? And this is based upon this guy right here who's put on trial. And this woman in the background, she's an artificial intelligence judge. Okay. I highly recommend you watch the trailer and see this movie. Okay. This is not a coincidence that all of this is just happening around the same time. And see what Esau likes to do. He likes to use what's called gradualism, right?
Gradualism.
Okay. Now, gradualism is a policy of gradual reform rather than sudden change or revolution. Okay, so he's not just going to hit you all at one time and say, hey, we're going to come in and we're going to track and trace you. We're going to bring in our drones. We're going to do this. No, what the elites like to do in this sense is they like to gradually build what's called a sequence of steps. Okay, so for an example, they may create a decoy of some sort of an event and get a reaction for it so that they can bring in other means of whatever it is that they're trying to establish. Okay. And then once they've established that, they'll go into the next step in sequence. Okay. By adding on something for a longer term of an effect. Okay. And it's known as gradualism. So we are in the stage of going to the next interval of digital technology, which ultimately is going to lead to the RFID microchip, which is mentioned in Revelation, the 13th chapter. Okay. Now that I say all of that to say this, that brings me back over here to the Rockefeller Foundation 2010 report. Okay. Now you have 4 key points here. Okay. And we're only going to focus on 2 of them today. That's lockstep and hack attack. Okay. Remember, during President Trump's first term in office back in 2016, okay, he mentioned something called operational, let me get that here, warp speed. Type it in. All right. It says Operation Warp Speed, or otherwise known as the acronym OWS, was a U.S. government-led public-private partnership initiated in May 2020 to rapidly develop, manufacture, and distribute the C-19 jump shots and therapeutics. And that's pretty much all we need to know, right? But what they don't tell you is the operational warp speed wasn't just to distribute that, but it was also to set up their digital age, their technology. And this is where we come back over here to the report, okay? Because this is their guideline from the Rockefeller Foundation 2010 report. Now here at Lockstep, it says a world of tighter top-down government control and more authoritarian, supposed to be leadership, with limited innovation and growing citizen pushback. And do we not see that happening today? We see that happening on a grander scale of things, right? So let's come down here. We're going to get straight to the point. All right. And we're going to come here to their technology, okay, and Lockstep. So I'm just going to quickly breeze through this. It says, while there is no way of accurately predicting what the important technological advancements will be in the future, the scenario narratives point to areas where conditions may enable or accelerate the development of certain kinds of technologies. Thus, for each scenario, we offer a sense of the context for the technological innovation and taking into consideration the pace, geography, and key creators. And we also suggest a few technology trends and applications that can flourish in each scenario. Technological innovation in Lockstep is largely driven by government and is focused on issues of national security. Okay, and this is the reason why you have a lot of pushback today with what they call immigration. Okay, you see what's happening across the four winds, such as what's going on in America with the whole ICE agents, okay? And then you have the situation that's going on here in Australia with the pushback with the Palestinians. And then also you have the situation up there in the UK. Hence why, let me come back over here. The UK Prime Minister, what am I doing? Prime Minister Starmer, spelled this name wrong, introduces digital ID to combat mass migration for jobs. All right. So check this out, right? Because see, you have to learn how to put everything together. It says Prime Minister Keir Starmer has announced plans to introduce a mandatory free digital ID for all UK residents by the end of the current parliament by 2029. Now, why by 2029? Because get a new tab, you have something that's called, what is it? ID 2030 project. Okay. The ID 2030 project, largely driven by the UN Sustainable Development Goals 16.9 and the World Bank. Okay, once again, the top banking elites. It says aims to provide legal identity for all, including birth registration by 2030. It focuses on secure, digital, and inclusive identification systems to facilitate access to services with a global push for digital public infrastructure and secure, interoperable credentials. All right. So coming back over here. So this is what Starmer did. Okay. It says he announced plans to introduce a mandatory free digital ID for all UK residents by the end of the current parliament by 2029 to tackle illegal migration, particularly by securing the right to work, renting, accessing services as reported by the BBC and government.uk. The digital ID held on smartphones aims to reduce the shadow economy. Basically, it's just another way of saying that they want total control of the people. You see what I'm saying? So it's like I said, it's not a coincidence that all you have to take into account all of these things, man. And people are not hip to what's really going on. Okay. So coming back to the article, I'm gonna read this again. It says technological innovation in lockstep is largely driven by government and is focused on issues of national security, health, and safety. It's not a coincidence where the first part going on 5 years ago, we had the health and safety. Ooh, Salakia, we had the health and safety aspect, which was what? COVID. Okay. And then COVID helped to introduce, let me get this here, right? Let's see here. Yuval Harari says COVID helped to introduce digital surveillance. All right, check this out. This is from BBC, just showing you that I'm not making this up. All right. Now, this is fair use. All right, this is fair use. Okay, now let's see if this will play. Check this out.
Love to travel to Antarctica with scenic Discovery yachts.
Sit down commercial, Salakia. Let the commercial play first. They don't give me a ad skip button. All right, here we go.
Does this COVID-19 crisis, which you call the biggest crisis of our lifetimes, does it to you represent, in the end, little more than a bump in the road, or is it something more profound than that?
I think that in our lifetime, if you think in terms of a couple of decades, it will be big. Not because of the epidemic itself, but even more so because of the economic and political consequences. But in the long sweep of history, thousands of years, no, I don't think it will be one of the big events of history. It could be a watershed event in several ways, like we discussed earlier with surveillance. People could look back in 100 years and identify the coronavirus epidemic as the moment when a new regime of surveillance took over, especially surveillance under the skin, which I think is maybe the most important development of the 21st century, is this ability to hack human beings.
Noted. Okay, so let me take that back, because we here at Great Millstone, okay, we're through the spirit and power of Yahweh Ba'Shem Yahushai, we've been telling you that this is what is going to come down to. He mentioned surveillance under the skin, which none other than is the RFID microchip, the mark of the beast, right? Take it back.
Identify the coronavirus epidemic as the moment when a new regime of surveillance took over, especially surveillance under the skin, which I think is maybe the most important development of the 21st century, is this ability to hack human beings, to go under the skin, collect biometric data, analyze it, and understand people better than they understand themselves. This, I believe, is maybe the most important event of the 21st century. The moment when a system out there knows me better than I know myself.
And these people are wicked, man. They're the evil that the Bible speaks of. And, remember, one of the steps within the Rockefellers Foundation, when you come back to it, is what? The hack attack. Okay? The hack attack, which we're going to get into a little bit later. But just to get back to the lockstep, because we have to go through the lockstep first in order to get to the hack attack, right? So here's some of the technology trends that they put as a guideline. And then as I read through this, you can start to see how that pans out into what they are trying to accomplish in our time today here in 2026. So it says, let me finish this off. Most technological improvements are created by and for developed countries, shaped by governments' dual desire to control, you see that, and to monitor their citizens. This is why he said, COVID era, okay, open up the doors for surveillance on a mass scale, because now they have the technology to hack every single human being here on the planet Earth. You see, once again, it don't sound like a conspiracy theory anymore when you put all the details together, does it? Okay. It says, in states with poor governance, large-scale projects that fail to progress abound. So it says technology trends and applications we might see. Keep in mind, this is just a guide that was written down back in 2010. Scanners using advanced functional magnetic resonance imaging technology become the norm at airports and other public areas to detect abnormal behavior that might indicate antisocial intent. Now, remember, coming back to the drones, okay, let's watch this again. And so that you know, I'm not making this up. This was 1 day ago. As you see the date there, February 19, 2026, 1 day ago.
Inside Bankstown Airport here in Sydney's west, they're tracking offenders that are more than 600 kilometres away.
Bankstown Airport, keep that in mind.
New South Wales Police today unveiled a new drone technology that can track fugitives on the run from the skies. This vision is from a trial that's been done in Moree in the state's northwest over the last month. They're able to track in real time where an offender is at any one moment. Information is being fed back to those officers on the ground about where the fugitive is moving to, so the officers can adjust accordingly. And in this case, it was successful and they arrested the offender. There has...
Yeah, so that's all we need, man. Okay. So you can see how you know, in this sense, they was going to use scanners, but you can see how that upgraded to using drone technology. Okay. And the drone technology, they have RFID scanners as well, especially at nighttime if they're trying to catch the perpetrator. Okay. So it goes on to say, in the aftermath of pandemic scares, such as the COVID, smarter packaging for food and beverages is applied first by big companies and producers in business-to-business environment, and then adopted for individual products and consumers. And an example of that is post-COVID, they showed you, especially in California, you had some technology where they had a robot or whatever deliver food and packages, right? Parcels and so forth. It says new diagnostics are developed to detect communicable diseases. The application of health screening also changes. Screening becomes a prerequisite for release from a hospital or prison, successfully slowing the spread of many diseases. This is the reason why during the COVID area, they had what was known as a barcode system, right? So I don't know how it worked in the States, but here in Australia, if you took the jump shot and you wanted to go somewhere, you had to scan the barcode to check in, right? And so, say, for instance, that company that you went to, let's say, to make it even simple, you went to a restaurant. When you enter into the restaurant, you had a barcode you had to scan in, which allowed for you to check into that restaurant. So if the infection spread and they had to shut the business down, what the police would do here in Australia is they would tap into that data to see everybody who had been not affected, but everybody who had entered into that business, right, by checking in, when they can actually go based upon your check-in and they can find your address and everything, right, all your details, and then they can come up to your doorstep and give you a swab test to see if you are infected with COVID. Okay. And they did that between 2020 to about 2022, 2 years. You see what I'm saying? But they used the data technology through the barcode system simply by you just going in and scanning your phone, and then voila. All right. So again, we're reading the guidelines, and then we're showing you in real time how they've implemented this with this being written back in 2010. And now we're in 2026. It says telepresence technology respond to the demand for less expensive, lower bandwidth, sophisticated communication systems for populations who travel is restricted. All right. It says driven by protectionism, National security concerns, nations create their own independent, regionally defined IT networks, okay, i.e. Palantir, mimicking China's firewalls. Governments have varying degrees of success in policing internet traffic, but these efforts nevertheless fracture the World Wide Web. All right, this is why they want to shut down the internet, and they want to reset it by having full control over it. Now, although they don't want to do that just in one hit, so they're doing it in in stages. Okay, this is why, for an example, let's come back over here. Let's see. Australia implements. Yeah, here it is right here. All right. It says a month ago, Australia has banned social media for kids under 16. How does it work? Right. So this is an example of gradualism. Okay. So what they do is, this is how the elites get down. Rather than them just shutting down the internet all at once, they implement stages. Okay. Where they just go in and say, okay, what we're going to do is we're going to shut this down. We're not going to allow for a certain demographic of people between the ages of blah, 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 that are not going to be able to do that. Okay. Let's get one precept. All right. And Salakia, when 30 minutes into the lesson, I ain't brought one precept out, but let's get Isaiah chapter 10 and verse 1. Okay. It says, woe unto them that decree unrighteous decrees, and that right grievousness which they have prescribed, to turn aside the needy from judgment, and to take away the right from the poor of my people, that widows may be their prey, and that they may rob the fatherless. And this is what they're doing through means of their technology. Okay. That's why it also tells you in the book of Psalms as well. I think it's 94 or 96. Let me start with 96 first. Yeah, it's 94. Always get it mixed up. All right. All right. It says Psalms 94 and 20, shall the throne of iniquity have fellowship with thee, which frameth mischief by law, or by a law. Okay. So what they do is, it tells you here, let's get the Apocrypha, that when you get the book of what is it, Wisdom of Solomon 2 and 11, right? Which says, let our strength be the law of justice, for that which is feeble is found to be nothing worth. This is how they succeed, because they take the law. Okay, the law really is their strength. Okay, and then they write these unrighteous decrees, which they have prescribed, meaning they have already, met up secretly behind closed doors. They've had secret councils on how they're going to control and manipulate the masses of the people. Okay. And then what they do is they go out and they stage an event to look for a reaction for the people. Okay. And then once they get that reaction, here comes the law that they're going to implement to bring in the new changes. This is what they do. You see what I'm saying? So the scriptures backs up everything that we've been telling you, man. And this is not a game. This is not a game. Okay. So this is this was lockstep technology. So now we're going to go down to hack. All right. Hack attack. Okay. Now, before I read this, let's one more time. Let's take it back what Yuval Harari said. Okay. Talking about hacking human beings, right?
Event in several ways, like we discussed earlier with surveillance. People could look back in 100 years and identify the coronavirus epidemic as the moment when a new regime of surveillance took over, especially surveillance under the skin, which I think is maybe the most important development of the 21st century, is this ability to hack human beings, to go under the skin, collect biometric data, analyze it, and understand people better than they understand themselves. This, I believe, is maybe the most important event of the 21st century.
Right. So they want to hack human beings right now. What's going to set that up? They're going to blame it on the public first. all right, in terms of all the systems are failing, people, anonymous users are hacking our digital systems and whatnot, right? So they've implemented something that's called the hack attack. It says an economically unstable and shock prone world in which governments weaken, criminals thrive, and dangerous innovations emerge. You see? So to give you an example, there was a situation last year around December where the systems failed the airport. Okay. And nobody could, people couldn't fly. All right. People couldn't log in. Everything was breached. You see? So this is via way of systematic design. Okay. The elites are doing this on purpose. Okay. It's not just, there was a global outage and no. This is systematically done by design. Right. And so just to get to the point, okay, technology and hack attack. It says mounting obstacles to market access and to knowledge creation and sharing slow the pace of technological innovation. Creative repurposing of existing technologies for good and bad is widespread, as counterfeiting and IP theft lower incentives for original innovation. In a world of trade disputes and resource scarcities, much effort focuses on finding replacements for what is no longer available. You see, pervasive insecurity means that tools of aggression and protection, virtual as well as corporal, are in high demand, as are technologies that will allow hedonistic escapes from the stresses of life. Okay. So if you understand technologies that will hedonistic escapes from the stresses of life, one of the main technologies that they've introduced in our lifetime, especially now in 2026, is artificial intelligence. This is why AI is taking over everything. Okay. This is why AI is taking over jobs. Okay. Securities and things of that nature. All right. It says technology trends and applications you might see. So again, it's going to give you a list of guidelines. Okay. Echoing the rise of synthetic chemicals in the 19th century, synthetic biology, often state funded, is used to grow resources and foodstuffs that have become scarce. This is why they've introduced things like, let's come back over here. Okay. 3D meats. Okay. Come here. Not now. Okay. 3D printed meat uses additive manufacturing technology. See, technology to create structured plant-based or cultivated lab-grown protein products by the products, Salakia, that mimic the taste, texture, and appearance of traditional meat. Because they'll tell you that, there's a scarcity of food or there's a famine of food, right? We don't have enough food to sustain human beings on the planet Earth. So we're going to use our technology to feed you 3D meat that's grown from the lab, right? This is what they're doing. It says by layering ingredients like muscle, fat, and blood substitutes. All right, it makes you wonder where they get those blood substitutes from. Companies such as Redefine Meat create sustainable, slaughter-free, and customizable high-end food products. So that's one example. Okay, so that's one example of a guide that they used. Next one, it says new threats like weaponized biological pathogens and destructive bonnets dominate public attention, but enduring technologies like the AK-47 also remains weapons of choice for global guerrillas. All right. Once again, this is the reason why they have the police drone trial. Okay. Because now they can search out enemies. Okay. That's what they're doing. It says the internet is overrun with spam and security threats and becomes strongly associated with illicit activity, especially on dark webs where no government can monitor, identify, or restrict activities. What did we just look up? We looked up. Remember, we just looked this up. Okay. Australia has banned social media for kids under 16. That's just one example. You see, mind you, again, this was written in what? 2010. So this is how they're going to respond, and they're going to implement by bringing in these changes to start their new world order, man. It's right here in your faces. You see, it says identity verification technologies become a staple of daily life. Identity verification, meaning you have to identify yourself. Now, if you haven't been paying attention, France backs India's digital ID. Let's get this right here. French President Emmanuel Macron has strongly praised and supported India's digital public infrastructure, particularly its digital identity system, during the India AI Impact Summit 2026 in New Delhi, man. You can't make this up, even if you tried. You can't make this up. Okay, and hey, 20th of February, this was yesterday, man. Actually, a couple of days ago, it was on the 19th. But the technology is here. Here it is. You have a NATO country in France backing a BRICS nation. What is that all about? Because all of these nations are in cahoots when it comes to the New World Order. I'm say it again. You have a NATO country backing a BRICS country when it comes to the digital ID. Why? Because all of these nations are in cahoots with the New World Order. This is why the scripture says, let's get Psalms 2:1. It says, why do the heathen rage and the people imagine a vain thing? Because everything they're doing and trying to establish this enterprise, this New World Order, it's all in vain. It's all in vain. And it's going to be to no avail. In verse 2, it says, the kings of the earth set themselves and the rulers take counsel together against Yahweh and against his anointing, saying, let us break their bands asunder and cast away their cords from us. But see, this is what the Lord says. He that sitteth in the heavens shall laugh. Yahweh Ba'ashem Yahushua shall have them in derision. See, he's going to allow for them only to get so far. And then he's going to rip this whole entire system directly from under their feet. You see? So that's where we at. Again, it says identity verification technologies become a stable Salakia of pardon me. Identity verification technologies become a staple of daily life with some hitches. A database of retina recordings stolen by hackers in 2017 is used to create numerous false identities still at large in the mid 2020s. Now you can understand a reason why they want to implement digital identification. Now you understand their purpose in bringing such technologies into play, right? With the cost of cosmetic surgery dropping, procedures like the lunchtime facelift become routine among emerging middle classes, right? So that's pretty much all you have, right? So this is what, let me just go back. Let's see. Okay, so this is what we're at. Okay, lockstep hack attack. Okay, and they're trying to accomplish clever together by means of establishing the New World Order. But first, they want this. They need eyes on the ground. Okay, and so now let's get some precepts to close out. All right, and first precept. This is Job chapter 27, chapter 13, pardon me, Job 13:27, right? It says, thou puttest my feet also in the stocks, and lookest narrowly unto all my paths. Thou settest a print upon the heels of my feet. All right. Now, when you read that in a different translation, it says in the AMP, you also put my feet in stocks as punishment and critically observe all my paths. You set a circle and limit around the soles of my feet, which I must not overstep. And that's this new world order. Okay. Big brother is watching. NLT says, you put my feet in stocks, you examine all my paths, you trace all of my footprints. Yeah, because you have something also, you have something else called carbon footprint.
Carbon footprint.
It says a measure of the amount of carbon dioxide released into the atmosphere as a result of the activities of a particular individual, organization, or community. So when they implement the digital ID in that microchip, they also are going to count your carbon footprint, right? Now, I believe, let's see here, carbon footprint. What is it called? On food. Yeah. Give you an example. Let's see if they have it here. Here it is. Now, if you have a look here, now they just started implementing this on different foods. When you go to the store, okay, and you have the microchip inside of you, see, this is the shit that they're not going to tell you, right? They already started implementing this. Notice on the back of the packaging of the food, it says the carbon footprint for the full life cycle of this Quran product is 0.16 kilograms per serving. Now, if you go over your monthly limit or daily limit, however they're going to set this up, let's say you're craving this and you walk into the store, okay, and you scan this over the counter, it's going to alert you saying you have reached your you have reached your daily max of carbon footprint servings on this particular product. Yeah. This is what's coming. This is not a joke. You see? But yet you got people, they sitting up here worrying about everything else, okay? Worrying about what happened at the Super Bowl. They don't like Bad Bunny at the halftime performance. Nicki Minaj, not Nicki Minaj. Cardi B is no longer with Stephen Diggs, okay? Nicki Minaj is up there with President Trump. All of these fucking distractions, man. And they not telling you what's about to come. So again, coming back here to Job 13 and 27, NLT. You put my feet in stocks, you examine all my paths, you trace all of my footprints. That's what Esau is trying to do. Okay. They trying to really be like the Most High. Let's get Job 34. Okay. Job 34 and 21, 22. It says, for his eyes are upon the ways of men, and he seeth all his goings. There is no darkness nor shadow of death where the workers of iniquity may hide themselves, right? Because Yahweh B'Shem Yahushai truly sees all. And any system that attempts to total surveillance is a mimic of divine omniscience. That's all it is. All right. Let's get Psalms 10. All right. And 8. It says, he sitteth in the lurking places of the villages, and in the secret places doth he murder the innocent. His eyes are privily set against the poor. All right. Let's get this in a different translation. AMP says, he lurks in ambush in the villages. In hiding places, he kills the innocent. He lies in wait for the unfortunate, the unhappy, the poor, the helpless. And who is the unhappy, the poor, and the helpless? And this time, that's the Israelites. Okay, you so-called Negroes, Latinos, and Native Americans that the Bible speaks of. Okay, this is what this man, this is what he does. All right, let's get another one. Psalms chapter 37 and verse 32. It says, The wicked watcheth the righteous and seeketh to slay him. You see what I'm saying? And that's the time that we're in. Okay. Let's get Micah chapter 7, verse 2. Another good one. All right. It says, the good man is perished out of the earth, and there is none upright among men. They all lie in wait for blood. They hunt every man his brother with a net. Now, on a spiritual aspect, they hunt, right? Esau was known as a cunning hunter, was he not? Now, hunting with a net, let's say spiritually, it parallels with today's modern systems of tracking and control. Okay. Tracking and control, right? You have to understand that. But see, Esau's pride, okay, that's what's going to bring him down. Let's get Obadiah 1. All right, verses 3 and 4. The pride of thy heart have deceived thee, thou that dwellest in the clefts of the rock, whose habitation is high, that saith in his heart, who shall bring me down to the ground? See, his nest among the stars, right? So like, let me keep reading. It says, though thou exalt thyself as the eagle, and though thou set thy nest among the stars, thence will I bring thee down, saith Yahweh, right? Because his nest among the stars, that goes into his satellites, space dominance imagery, okay? Basically him overall exalting himself like the Most High, Yahweh. You see? And through the means of his digital ID, he wants to have total surveillance over the masses of the people. Okay? You have to understand that. Right? He's attempting to have that godlike authority, right? Let's get Habakkuk. We got to get that. Habakkuk 2. All right, at 5. Habakkuk 2 and 5 says, yea, also because he transgresseth by wine, meaning his philosophies, he is a proud man, and neither keepeth at home, who enlargeth his desire as hell, and is as death, and cannot be satisfied, but gathered unto him all nations, and heaped unto him all people. Okay. He wants total global control and dominion over the nations. This is the reason for his new world order. Okay. Plain and simple. Plain and simple. All right. And it's going to lead to this right here. We can end it here. All right. We can pretty much end it here. All right. Revelation 13, 16 through 18. It says, and he causeth all, both small and great, rich and poor, free and bond, to receive a mark in their right hand or in their foreheads. And that mark is the Greek word charagma, which is an incision. And that no man might buy or sell save he that had the mark or the name of the beast or the number of his name. Let you know that this is a physical mark. Here is wisdom. Let him that had understanding count the number of the beast, for it is the number of a man, and his number is 666. Okay. Chi stigma. When you go into the word stigma, it means to act as a badge of servitude or to prick or stick. That's how we know that this is a physical marking. Okay. And through this stamp that everybody's going to have to receive, this gives them total economic control, which goes into surveillance plus enforcement of the system. All right. You know, so that's pretty much it. You know, I just wanted to do a quick lesson on, you know, what's going on here down in the land down under, as Australia tries to mimic divine omniscience through their drone technology. Okay. And Lord's will, this lesson was edifying, straight to the point as always. And yeah, hopefully we continue to endure, stay prayed up. All right. And with that, I want to give all praise, glory, and honor be to Yahweh, Bahasham, Yahweh Shai, Bahasham, Rachaha Kwadash. Double honors to the apostles and elders of Great Millstone, better known as GMS, who well. Peace and salutations unto the hopeful elect, the tabernacle of David, beginning with the 144,000 and the rest of the men, women, and children out of the 12 tribes whom Yahweh, Bahasham, Yahweh Shai, will ultimately have mercy upon in these last days. All right. And once again, I'm your brother Matazabath, reporting from the branch of the Great Millstone here in Melbourne, Australia. Shalom.